Good afternoon. We will reconvene the open session of today's meeting now. There is no report from closed session. We have a number of minutes from committees and boards. So can I get a mover for the minutes of the regular meeting held September 5th be approved as presented? Moved by Councillor Natchoff, second by Councillor Byrne. All in favor? Those are approved. We have four other sets of minutes, I think. So we'll do those. We'll do them one by one. Why not? We'll do that. The minutes of the Miller Valley Trails Advisory Committee held on May 26th and June 23rd be approved as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, Councillor Natchoff, all in favor. That is approved. The Cabot Monaghan Public Library Board minutes of the June 17th meeting. We'll look for a mover for that. Those be received for information. Moved by Councillor Byrne, second by Councillor Natchoff, all in favor. That is approved. I think we have a few other combined minutes as well, so we can combine these ones, I believe. So the minutes of the Municipal Revitalization and Heritage Committee meeting held June 19th, 2025, the Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting held June 26th, and the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting held June 26th as well be approved as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Edgerton, all in favor. Those are approved. We'll move on to the report segment. First report is Bridget Ayotte with regards to the Community Improvement Plan Grant Program recipient. Bridget.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Mayor. The report before Council is ECD 2025-09, the 2025 Community Improvement Plan Grant Program recipient, with the recommendation that Council accepts the proposed 2025 Community Improvement Plan Grant recipient 10 Prince Street as presented, and that $10,000 be allocated from the Community Improvement Plan Incentives Capital Budget.
Thanks, Bridget. Questions with regards to this year's recipient? Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair to Bridget. Not so much a question on this at all, but at the Fall Festival on the weekend, and a couple of people come up to me and approached me. So I walked around and paid a little bit of attention because now I'm on this accessibility committee. For the entranceway into a lot of the stores, there's a small lip. I'm wondering, is there any chance that in this program here, which is meant for the BIA for the most part, initially, I know it's spread out to the whole township, is there any way that this money might be used to make kind of a universal type little aluminum ramp that could be shared, like kind of uniform along the street, because you're all about the aesthetics of it, but that little bit of a lip, people are pointing out that it's a hurdle to get over with a wheelchair. I don't know if all the doors are even wide enough. I just wondered if this program even allows for that kind of thought.
Is that?
So through you, Chair, to Councillor Byrne. So this particular program is actually under the expanded CIP, which includes all of the township. So in terms of the township, actually, I'm assuming what you're asking for is if the township could purchase just a generic lip that could be supplied, if that's what you're looking for. But having said that, there are a number of programs. The Building and Site Improvement Program is the one that comes to mind under the Millbrook CIP that does allow for any accessibility upgrades. So if a business is looking to put down a ramp, if they're looking to increase, change a doorway entrance to make it more accessible, that is considered an eligible project, and they can make an application under the CIP.
Yeah, so the CIP program can allow for them to utilize money to solve whatever riddle and however they'd like to solve it themselves in the accessibility columns, but it doesn't like pre-design something and impose it on someone or make them available. It's, if you want to improve your accessibility, there's a program where we can get funding to offset the costs. So it's kind of like, it's not, what you're asking is a solution that someone could find and fund if they apply through the CIP, but it's not something that, precasts a solution for them that they just installed. Does that make sense? Follow up, Councillor Byrne?
Through the chair, yes. No, it was just a point that I never really considered before. And when I walked around and looked at it, and the girls at the fitness club there, they've got one. And I thought just in the look of the land down the street, if it was kind of uniform, it'd probably make more sense than everybody trying to do a little piece here and a little piece there. Just throwing it out there that it was even under consideration. That's all. Thank you.
That might also be the type of enhancement that the BIA itself funding could, because the BIA has that account that they can produce and generate their own revenues. And then if they wanted to work on a consistent look, to your point, they could also work with us and the businesses could apply to get multiple facets at once. But that's a good point, Councilor Byrne. Thank you. Other questions? If not, I believe we're just receiving this for information. And move in a seconder for that. Moved by Councilor Natchoff, seconded by Councilor Byrne. All in favor? Sorry, excuse me. So with regards to that moving, we're talking about that council accepts the proposed 2025 Community Improvement Plan grant recipient 10 Prince Street as presented, 10,000 be allocated from the CIP incentives capital budget. Excuse me. Moved by Councilor Byrne, seconded by Councilor Natchoff. All in favor? That is approved. Thank you. Apologies for that. Thank you, clerk. Second report, 10.2. Update with regards to waste management and recycling. Specifically, I believe Mr. Manduka will be taking the reins today. Chris, welcome.
Good afternoon, through your chair and members of council. We have before you the Public Works Report 2025-14 with the following recommendations. One, that the council receive this report on waste management for information, and second, that council support the draft resolution regarding producer responsibility and send that to the MECP et al. I understand there is a bit of a wording change in the recommendation coming forth. Any questions we're here to ask?
Thank you, Chris. Questions with regards to members of council with regards to the report. Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, to Chris. My question is around, we obviously at county council, we deal with the eligibility and ineligible part of this thing a fair bit, and it's been subject to many an hour of debate. But I like the one I didn't quite pick up on that I did in your report is at a transfer station. How could anybody determine whether it's coming from an eligible or an ineligible source when it's going into the recycling bins?
Through your chair to Councillor Huntley, that's a very good question. So the Circle Materials Ontario, who would be the ones that would be auditing that, have said that there'd be boots on the ground, other steps they would take to try to audit that. But from a staff perspective, it could be a losing the battle, and that may not actually be as accurate as they would hope.
Follow up.
Yeah, I guess my follow-up question on that one is, with regards to, trying to change, the legislation that's come down and what, the circle guys have to deal with. I mean, you would think that if it's all going to get, consolidated at a transfer station, it would be just as easy for them to pick it up there. I mean, I get that they're right now they don't want to drive around and they don't want to mix it with, residential and commercial and that sort of stuff. But if it's already mixed, it's already there, it's already packaged, why not? Right. And I guess it's part of the letter that's going forward. I mean, is that part of it being addressed? Because I know from a county perspective, we said like it makes 0 sense to have one truck going right by a whole bunch of recycling because it's not eligible, and having a second truck go by it, and go pick that up and bypass the other recycling. It's just the whole point of this thing is we're putting way more trucks on the road to pick up recycling where we shouldn't have to, which makes 0 sense. But I get it. They're still working the bugs out of this thing. But I don't understand when it's all consolidated at a transfer station. Like, why is that a problem? and I guess, is that part of the request going back to the ministry?
Through your chair to Councillor Huntley. So unfortunately, through the legislation, they will not allow for blended material between non-eligible sources and eligible sources through any sort. There are some measures in the works that they may allow some blended material between non-eligible sources and eligible sources. But my understanding through the legislation is that they have a obligation, they being the producers, for certain tonnages, and they wouldn't be able to count non-eligible sources against those obligations. So at an additional cost to them, they wouldn't want to be doing anything above and beyond what the legislation recommends that they do. So to your point, the blended material at a transfer station, for example, the kinks are still being worked out, and either they can allow some blended material, and I'm not sure what that would look like on their account balancing at the end of it. But that is something that we are working towards as well.
Yep, follow up.
Through you, Chair, then So I guess is the expectation then that we'll have like duplicate sets of recycling bins there for, here's, you're eligible, here's your non-eligible, and thou shall never cross paths?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Henley, that is rules as written. But again, hopefully their legislation changes to perhaps allow for additional blended material and to release some of the burden on non-eligible sources. But rules as written right now is that if you are to continue on the path of accepting non-eligible source material, it would have to be physically separated from the eligible source material. Not only at our transfer station, but also at the processing plants, which is actually why there's a great deal of confusion and uncertainty across the province. Some of the smaller northern communities don't have those processing plants to have enough space to create that separation. So it's a provincial issue at this point.
Yeah, and it certainly seems from the follow-up letter we got after county council last week that there's a lot of hard lines being drawn, and I'm sure there's going to be a very difficult negotiations between CMO and the province about how these compromises are going to be made, because there's a lot of people that are pretty agitated and not being met with compromise, but rather just being told this is what the legislation says. So there won't be any special exceptions made. Ms. Hurley?
Thank you, Chair to Council. When we were talking about the producers and the legislation, the intent originally was the producers were going to find their own way and pay for it themselves, as we all know. So whether you have a private pickup or you have some type of bin to pick up, it's just that the funding and everything and the support for the residential was there. But all the producers, so ICI businesses, have to be responsible for their own. So the challenge is going to be, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. And we've talked about that internally, where the province is leaving for the businesses to be able to make their own decision, whether they have a private pickup or whatever they do with their ICI. But it is a bit of a mess, a quandary on this process. And as you know, even our local MPP has been providing documentation and support to try to get the legislation changed as well. There seems to be a lot of interest in trying to do something, because this is going to get very messy as of January 2026.
Councilor Burr?
Through the chair, I never understood this from the very beginning. It looked like a screw up right from the get-go. And the concept I thought I was being told way back then was we're gonna get the Amazons and the Walmarts of the world to pay for all this. And I don't know how they're making it with that. But on page 44 of the report, Chris, it starts talking about all addresses, and it was leading to where some places would have transfer stations and some places wouldn't. Can you make sense of that for me, please?
Through your chair to Councillor Byrne. So in the process of reducing costs to the producers, they were deeming depots as either convenience or not, to an extent. So any municipality that it was deemed that every single location, residential location, could be serviced curbside, then they could get away with the depot and not have to provide a depot for that municipality. So unfortunately, Norwood was on that chopping block. So it's determined on each individual municipality, and we're still kind of working out the kinks for our own transfer station as well.
Councilor Natchez?
Thank you, through you, Chair. So just so I'm clear about things, as a business owner on King Street, this is obviously going to directly affect my business. So is there something to prevent me from just asking the tenants that live above me to put their recyclables in, or is it strictly just for commercial, right?
Through your chair to Councillor Natchoff, if I'm understanding your question, you're asking about the mixed use properties, so a commercial entity underneath and a residential over top. So essentially, the residential unit above is considered an eligible source, so they can still put out curbside, whereas the business below would have to find their own way. And you know, to the earlier point about audit, about who's going to go out and police that, it'll have to be boots on the ground, and I don't know how effective the police will be of that.
Follow up?
So then I am clear with the question then I pose forward, then I could conceivably be asking the tenant upstairs to put my recycle in there under the address box of theirs and it would be removed. I'm not trying to come up with circumvent the system, but this sounds flawed to me to begin with, so.
Through your chair to Councilor Natchoff, I think that pardon? Oh, yes, as the director has mentioned that we are unclear of the specifics, but to your point that they're across the province, that may be a solution that some business owners may choose to go down.
Councilor Burke?
Through the chair, on page 45 of your report talks about curbside. Does it not address that particular issue? This idea, somehow you figure out 2% of what, I have no idea. And now you're allowed to put non-eligible stuff in curbside pickup. Like, how does that work?
So just for clarity, Councilor Burke, that's the county report? Yeah, so it's not, so we haven't drafted it, but yeah, I understand. I understand the question, just for clarity. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Chair, through you to Councilor Burns. So yes, that is a part of the county council report. So the 2% figure, that type thing was a part of a proposal to include small ICNIs in the part of the curbside process. This was when that report went to county council on October 1st. That was all still up in the air, and it's still most likely up in the air as well. We don't really have a firm answer, but we are looking to take a further report to council with our own personal options for our unique situation. And hopefully we get more information by that time.
Yeah, there is certainly more complications. The more you look in, the more you consider the special, circumstances. I mean, I know Selwyn had brought forward an example talking about there's a private business that's offering a bin for residential pickup at their marina because these individuals live on an island. So it's entirely residential material, but it's not being eligible to be picked up from a commercial business, even though it's the entirety of the content is. So like there's the more scenarios you can come up with, the more you can understand that there's different complications and how the legislation kind of really missed the boat with regards to the granularity of the, the abundance of nuances when it comes to who gets collection, who doesn't. Councilor Burke?
Through the chair, and I know you can't answer this, but I would really love to see the statistics, actual factual data that's honest to tell me if this recycling blue box program is even working after over 40 years. Because there's a lot of talk and I don't know who to believe, but a good chunk, if not a major chunk of it, goes straight to landfill anyways. And we're driving around every road in Ontario every week of the year, picking up stuff and then following it with a garbage truck, and they're both going to the same place. I would love to see some statistical data that say the program's even working.
Well, the only ones that we have access to, and we don't even have access to it anymore, was the county data that because of the transition, we no longer have that ability to provide that insights with regards to diversions, et cetera. So it's just another layer of frustrations. I don't see any other questions, but I have to read the entirety with regards to the resolution just because of the few administrative adjustments. So just bear with me, council, if you don't mind. So first of all, the council received the public reports report 2025-14 on waste management as information, and the council support the resolution regarding producer responsibility as follows. Whereas under Ontario Regulation 391/21, blue box producers are fully accountable and financially responsible for their products and packaging once they reach the end of life and are disposed of for eligible sources only. And whereas ineligible sources, which producers are not responsible for, including businesses, places of worship, daycares, campgrounds, public facing, and internal areas of municipally owned buildings and not-for-profit organizations such as shelters and food banks. And whereas a municipality can continue to provide services to ineligible sources, the municipality will be required to oversee the collection, transportation, processing of the recycling, assuming 100% of the cost, which amounts to yet another provincial municipal download. And whereas these costs will further burden the municipality's finances and potentially take resources away from vital infrastructure projects, therefore be it resolved that the council of the corporation of the township of Gavin-Monaghan hereby request that the province amend Ontario Regulation 391/21 blue box so that producers are responsible for the end of life management of recycling products for all sources, and further resolve that this resolution be forwarded to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Todd McCarthy, Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, Mike Harris, Minister of Natural Resources, and Lori Scott, member of provincial parliament for Halliburton, Kawartha Lakes Rock. And I get a mover and a seconder for those two, for the one resolution and the one motion. Moved by Councillor Natchoff, seconded by Deputy Mayor Huntley. All in favor? That is approved. Thank you, council. Moving on, there is no unfinished business. There is no notices of motions. Sorry. Oh, sorry, I missed 10.3. I skipped ahead. Just trying to get Deputy Mayor to his appointment. Sorry about that. Public Works 2025-15, Tapley Quarter Line, unopened road allowance, Mr. Hancock and Mr. Hutchison. How could I forget what you drew?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council, before you, we have Public Works Report 2025-15 with recommendations regarding the Tapley Quarter Line unopened road allowance. The recommendations before you are recommendation 1 is that council declare the unopened road allowance concession 3 part lot 6 and 7 be declared as surplus as per our deposition of land bylaw number 2016-07, and recommendation 2 that council direct staff to have this unopened road allowance appraised for the sale of land. So this request came from Mr. Thompson to council due to the fact that the unopened road allowance splits his property right down the middle. So he had requested purchasing the land from the township so that his land was whole again. Staff did do an internal review of the land, and due to some of the constraints with the road allowance, we did not believe there is future potential for uses of the township on this road allowance, whether it be a through road or installation of utilities or of that such. So we do not believe that there is uses for the township on the public works side of things, and we're recommending going through the appraisal process.
Okay, thanks, Drew. Questions, members of council? Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair. So I totally understand Gary Thompson's point of view with the 250-acre parcels. I don't know if they're separate deeds. I don't know if they're separate tax roll numbers. The thing that bothers me the most, the people, the settlers that came to this area and carved this township out of the wilderness had some vision and some long-range plans that make total sense to me. And I think they're long-standing and they hold water today. We're basically a township that's a long rectangular item, just a little less than 10 miles wide, just a little more than, or a little less than 15 miles long. It's split down the middle by the center line, which we now call County Road 10. And then the two halves were divided by quarter lines, which made it a grid pattern, which makes it very simple going forward. It's something that since I've been a kid, I've been told, oh, gridlock and this urban sprawl, and this was laid out properly. I look at what's happening out behind the arena here and I'm thinking, yeah, that's what they were talking about. So not only does it lay forward to the future, and it's worked for the last couple of 100 years, as much as I can see Gary's point, and I could maybe recommend giving him free and open access to travel across that road allowance when and wherever he wants. But by giving it up, by selling it, we'll never get it back as a township. It allows us access down to Fire Route 3, which is another unopened road allowance. And if you start closing all that opportunity off, I have no idea what the future holds. But in this job as counselor, I kind of think that I owe a certain obligation to the township to think a little farther ahead and to plan this out as best we can. I can see him wanting open access to it, and I don't see an issue with that. But selling it, I don't know if that's beneficial to the township long term.
Other questions? Councilor Edgerton.
You, Mr. Mayor, Drew, I concur with everything that Jerry was saying there, and I too, as a counselor, think that we should hang on to that property because you never know what might come up in the future for use of that. So I think that we should keep it as a township owned road allowance.
Thanks, Counselor Edgerton. Deputy Mayor Huntley?
Through you, Chair. And do we still have the road allowance above it or below it? Or has it been sold a long time ago?
Through you, Chair, to Deputy Mayor Huntley. We do not have the road allowance between County Road 21 and Zion Line. Back in the early 2000s, when the landfill was still off County Road 21 there, we did close up that road allowance and traded it to the owners at the time to get a buffer zone between the landfill. It was 30 meters between the landfill and the property beside it. So in the transfer, we got 30 meters on the east side of the landfill and gave up the road allowance between County Road 21 and Zion Line.
Yep, Paul.
So you're saying this is kind of a road to nowhere in isolation? If we were to keep it?
For lack of better terms, it does lead to Fire Route 3, which is south of Zion Line. There are constraints due to a water course that and wetlands that are south of Zion Line, as well as significant elevation change from Zion Line to the top of where Mr. Thompson's house is. I'm not saying it couldn't be done in the future, but the lay of the land right now is not on our side for anything we could see. But I do understand both sides of keeping it for the future. But our recommendation is we don't see too much potential with it, and I don't think there would be a harm in getting rid of it.
So Drew, can you just clarify maybe for myself and members of council? So are you insinuating just that if I'm zooming in on this map, so the 0116 being the road allowance to the south and 0451 being what would be conceivably the road allowance to the north, if I'm getting those numbers right? Are you insinuating that that both of those ends have been sold previously?
Through you, Chair, just the 0451 road allowance, which would be the road allowance going from Zion Line going north to County Road 21. To my knowledge, we still have 0116, which goes south.
No problem. I just wanted that clarity because it kind of sounded like we didn't have either, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay, Councilor Byrne?
Through the chair to that point, I believe Earl Patton's father-in-law owns that road allowance going south and bought it back 40 or 50 years ago.
So, sorry, are you insinuating that we don't own that one either?
It's my belief that south of the third line down to Carmel line, Fire Route 3, right, was purchased quite a while back. I could be wrong about that, but I thought.
Okay, well, let's get some clarity then. Drew, you want to speak to that?
Yes, through you, Chair. Talking to Wayne and Chris here, that Chris did insinuate that that was the case. The road allowance south of Fire Route 3 had been sold previously. So currently, right now, we only own the section between Fire Route 3 and Zion Line, which is the road allowance that Mr. Thompson is requesting.
So then just going back to my previous question, then we don't own either to the north or to the south? Ms. Hurley, maybe you want to clarify that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. If you're talking about the south portion, if you can. Sorry, thank you. If you can mark, identify, just want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing, because Fire Route 3 going east and west, we own because it's part of the Millbrook Valley Trail. Okay, you're talking about the little piece below, correct? Yes, I'm not sure about that one. I just want to clarify we're on the same page here.
There we go. Further questions, members of council? Councilor Byrne, and then we'll go to Deputy Mayor.
Through the chair to that point, yes. So those sections of road are basically just shy of a mile. So when you say a little piece, that's basically, we're roughly around a mile between concessions, give or take where you are. And yes, we still own that little piece in the middle, which looks oddball, I agree. But again, in the future, if that road ever did become useful and we still had it, I'm not worried about the terrain. We dug a hole to build a fire hall. We can move stuff now that we couldn't move 200 years ago when they were laying out this township. The bottom line is, by owning both sides of that road allowance, Gary's in an opportune position to benefit the most of anybody if that road allowance ever does become viable for this township. And I'm trying to look down the road 50 years, 100 years, and I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's kind of an iffy thing, but it just makes sense to me to give him open access to that and maintain it as a road allowance just in case.
Is there any comment from staff with regards to, I mean, obviously, we've gotten to this point because that's what his request was. He didn't ask for access, he wanted ownership. So is there any commentary about that, or speaking to the access of permissibility or things like that? Was that discussed? Was there any staff conversations with Mr. Thompson about that separate opportunity? I'm just trying to cross all the Ts and dot all the Is there.
Through you, Chair, like you said, the premise of it is he wants to own it. Currently, he does utilize it to go across it to his fields or different parts of his farm, but his whole goal is to own it so that in the future, his land isn't split with a public road, which would cause it could be beneficial for him, but it could be more complications than anything. So right now, we don't only allow certain access or anything. He can cross it willingly, but his goal is to own it.
So my point is, he's not encumbered as it stands now, just because there's, other than, I mean, maybe a liability exposure, I guess, if there was something issue to happen on the portion of the property that wasn't his for agricultural purposes. Okay, just, I think that clarifies everything, so we understand. Any further questions or discussion about the subject? And if not, we can entertain a motion. It sounds like there's merits on both sides. I understand, Drew, from the standpoint that it's very unlikely that there's going to be a County Road 10 through this area because of all of the environmental constraints in it. You're still not permitted to, run through wetlands to build roadways, regardless of whether you own it or not. So there's some encumbrances there, but I agree with Councilor Byrne's premise that, you don't want to get into business of selling every road allowance that exists because of that the idea is that we're in the 100 years of succession game, not the immediate future. So there's definitely merits to both points, but we're at the point now, if there's no more discussion, we can entertain a motion. So just for clarity, Deputy Mayor Hunley, you're going to move the two recommendations as presented in the report. Is that correct? Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councilor Natchoff. Let's just make things simple and let's do a recorded vote, if you don't mind, Ms. Page.
Mayor Graham,
No.
Counselor Edgerton,
No.
Deputy Mayor Huntley,
Yes.
Counselor Natchoff,
Sorry.
No.
Counselor Byrne.
No.
Okay, those recommends are defeated. Would an appropriate suggestion as a counter recommendation be just receive the report for information, or do you need further direction? So would someone like to propose an alternative motion that we just receive the report and obviously not move forward with the disposition of land? That would be, I'm assuming, the opposite of the motion as it stands now. Someone like to, so moved by Counselor Natchoff, seconded by the antithesis of this of the previous recommendation, it lost. So the new recommendation would be to receive the report for information and to not move forward with declaring the land surplus. I'm just taking that word. I'm just saying we're not, just so it's clear the intent, we're receiving it, but I wanted to give direction because Mr. Thompson's been waiting for an answer. And so the answer would be that we are not moving forward to declaring land surplus. Yeah, that was the two.
Through you, Mayor Graham, to yourself and the rest of council, yes, I think it's important that we have a motion. My recommendation would be that council not support declaring just number one, and you don't need number two. That would be my recommendation.
Much better. Thank you, Cindy. So we had a mover was Counselor Natchoff, seconded by Counselor Edgerton. You want the recorded vote? No, we'll just do it. Let's just see a show of hands voting on the measure. That is carried. Thank you. Good discussion, everybody. Counselor Natchoff, I believe you mentioned you had a committee verbal report.
Thank you through you, Chair. Just on the Merrick Valley Trails, we had our meeting last week. The processes of finalizing the budget for 2026. Sorry. And so the intention is budget has been completed and they will present a delegation half. Okay. Is that better? Okay, sorry. So we've constructed our budget and they will be presenting a delegation before council to argue their merits of what they want their budget to be and why. Thanks.
And I have, we had a library board meeting last month, and we'll be having another one coming up shortly. And again, really focused on the budget discussion and the applications, and we're waiting to hear about some new and exciting things, and always looking for very appreciative and excited about the renovations that have been going on through the ICIP grant that we received at the library. So that work is well underway, but you know, when you're dealing with a building as old as that, there's a lot of nuances and tricks up its sleeve. So we're learning and working our way through them as we go. So any other committee announcements? Deputy Mayor Huntley, and then I'll go to Councillor Byrne. Oh, sorry.
Through you, Chair. I just I wanted to talk about the Fall Festival that happened over the weekend. It was a fantastic event, well attended. I know Kathy Lysett from the BIA put a lot of work into planning it, and Bridget was there with the township booth. Made a lot of people smile and laugh and gave away gibbets and things like that. And Chris Allison and his team, Dan was down there with us helping and setting things up and was a complete rock star and couldn't have done it without Chris's team. So thank you very much to the township and Chris.
It's when the weather accommodates these events. Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair, I'd just like to mention on behalf of the Kawartha Lakes Conservation, Ken Reed Park has got most of their stuff back open after the mishaps with weather this fall and winter. And I want to thank probably Bridget, but I don't know who all's involved, but I see we're using more visual signage for the fire hall opening on the weekend, which I thought was well attended. And the upcoming Meet the Team meeting this Wednesday. I won't be there for the last 3 years on the second Wednesday of the month. I rent the hall up in Mount Pleasant and do a thing where people can access me as a counselor. So I'll be doing that. I won't be at the one on Wednesday, but it's nice to see the signage. The internet has its place, but it leaves a whole demographics out of the loop on everything. So and I hear the blackboard even got put up out by the old water tower. I don't know if the second one got anything on it or not, but I think that's important. And I've been trying to get something done for a long time. So thank you.
Okay, well, we'll miss you on Wednesday, Councillor Byrne, but we will look forward to introducing everyone on the team. Any other committees? If not, we'll take a motion to receive those verbal updates. Moved by Councillor Byrne, second by Councillor Natchoff. All in favor? That is approved. There is no general business, but we do have one more item on a correspondence for information. So as it was in the news last week and as it was brought to staff and my attention on, I believe it was Monday evening of last week, with regards to the letter that was enclosed here from the OLG, Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation, regarding the cease of slot operations in the township of Capmonaghan, pending or planning for March 2026, as that was the interim date that was in their initial agreement that has been going on since 2018 when they were informed it was going to be only on a temporary operation. So obviously, there's a lot of media attention coming on this, and it's obviously, it sounds as though 24 people and employee in the township might be impacted. So obviously, that's, you never like to hear about that. And obviously, from a municipal standpoint, we've been a great beneficiary of some of the OLG revenues and or our municipal share of those revenues. So it's nice to see in the letter that those will continue through 2026, 27. But you know, I do want to draw attention to the fact that, you know, I give kudos to previous terms of council to work out the dependency on that money in the capital budget of the municipality, because, you know, it was traditionally $3.2 million a year, and it's, you know, more in the realm of $300,000 a year now. So there was a lot of difficult financial conversations when we were weaning ourselves off that dependency. So you know, and this is the day that I think many of us didn't want to come. There's still a lot of questions. We've had conversations with a number of people involved, including our MPP, who's making some phone calls and trying to get an understanding of the full implications. But I just wanted to suggest to council that this is the information that we were presented with. So there's a lot more questions than answers other than what's in the document. But it would be prudent. I haven't heard from the mayor from Sarnia, and they were the only other gaming corporation that is also announced for closing yet. I know they were mentioning that they were going to reach out to me. Haven't heard yet, but in regards to, I didn't know if this was something the council might want to put in a letter of advocacy towards potentially the premier and maybe a few other pertinent people to have a discussion or just advocate for the continued support of the gaming component, because I know in speaking with Richard Weldon that there was a lot of conversation, a lot of positive conversation about actually expanding the horse racing dates in the near to not too distant future. But obviously, I think we're all waiting for the answer as to how or what is going to change to support that element of operations at the Downs in the absence of having obviously the gaming revenue. So if council's so interested, we could, you know, have staff draft a letter and come back to council with some content advocating for that. But I wanted to just give transparently the information to council that we've received at this point. Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, is that the appropriate action, or would it be more appropriate to endorse a letter coming from Richard and his team?
Well, I would expect, it was all a bit surprising. It was about 4 o'clock on a Monday when I think Richard had received it an hour ago, but then called me. So we haven't got anything from Richard to support yet. I'm not sure. I think he's still having as many phone calls as he can. And obviously, you know, with the press and otherwise. So it doesn't sound from the information thus far that there's a lot of optimism for the extension of this. So I just want to caveat that, but I don't think there's any harm in stating the importance of that revenue on the municipality that will be lost, and the importance of the, you know, the long history of horse racing in the community from an agricultural recreation standpoint. But also, I mean, the viability of, you know, a significant employer when you add, you know, we just had our event there in the summer and it was a great time, well attended. Everyone had a wonderful time. You know, the 24 employees that are potentially going to be impacted are just the tip of that iceberg. It doesn't encapsulate all of the other employment and outputs from the Downs and their operations there that support the agricultural community, but also support the municipality as well. So I don't think there's any harm in just clarifying that importance and trying to suggest that we, you know, we're appreciative of the buffering of the 1 year for the additional revenue. So it's not just a shock to the system. And obviously we have a municipal budget schedule that's very specific, and March would be a very, you know, kind of after the budget's passed time. So I think my suggestion would be that staff just work on a very sort of frank letter, letting them know that this is, you know, we understand there are pressures, but this is a significant implication to the municipality from a financial standpoint and an employment standpoint. And also, I would suggest probably putting in some supportive language to suggest that we are supporting and wanting to the continued support of horse racing in the community for the agricultural. That was rather than, I don't know how much impact it will be, but there's definitely a half of the coin, which is the horse racing, that we really don't know how it's going to, if there's going to be a different funding model that comes in or not. But as of right now, there's no information on it because there is a bit of separation. Obviously, the horse racing community is not OLG, but yeah, I think that's sort of the lay of the land. Questions about that, Councilor Byrne, and then I'll go to Councilor Edgerton.
Through the chair, so do you have anything concrete at all on how they're gonna guesstimate the extra year of buffering? Like, is it gonna be just a repeat of last year? Is it gonna be prorated?
Yeah, it says in the letter that it's just the same you received this year, you'll get next year. At like the 2025. No, yeah, so whatever it becomes at the end of this year, It's, that will be replaced or in kind, the following year, but that will be it, so. Questions? If not, so my motion was that so Councilor Edgerton was hoping I was gonna make the motion and he was gonna second it. So I guess that's okay. Ms. Page, do you have some clarity based on that conversation about the letter of advocacy? And I would be open to suggestions as to who additional recipients would be, beyond. We don't deal much in the gaming sphere of the provincial space, but I don't know if there's another minister that would be appropriate for that, to receive it in addition to the premier, but I'd be open to any suggestions. Okay. Sounds like staff can do some due diligence on that, but just an understanding that we're just sending a letter of advocacy with regards to the disruption in service and then discontinuation of the gaming at Fourth and Down. So I'll make that motion. Councilor Edgerton can move it. Questions, members of council about the motion? All in favor? That is approved. Thanks very much. There is no correspondence for action. Our bylaw number 2025-44 being a bylaw to execute execute an Ontario transfer payment agreement on the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program Housing Enabling Core Servicing Stream between His Majesty the King, as represented by the Minister of Infrastructure, and the Corporation of the Township of Cap-Monaghan for access to funding to be read a first, second, third time it passed this 6th day of October, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Any mover for that? Moved by Councilor Natchoff, seconded by Councilor Byrne. All in favor? That is approved. There is no unfinished business. There is no notices of motion. The confirming bylaw, that bylaw number 2025-45 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held October 6, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time and passed this 6th day of October, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Can I get a mover for the confirming bylaw? Moved by Councilor Edgerton, second by Councilor Natchoff. All in favor? That is approved. Lastly, motion for adjournment of today's meeting at 1:46 p.m. Moved by Councilor Edgerton, second by Deputy Mayor Huntley. All in favor? That is approved. Upcoming events, as was alluded to, Your Township, Your Team, Wednesday, October 8th from 3 to 6 p.m. We'll have an open sort of house sort of vibe with regards to the township and some of your senior executive team, as well as some members of council as well. So that is at the CMCC from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. The next regular council meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 20th at 1 p.m. The Cap-Monaghan Public Library Board meeting is Tuesday, October 21st at 7 p.m. at the Millbrook Branch. The Millbrook Valley Trails Advisory Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 27th at 4 p.m. The Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting is Thursday, October 30th at 1 p.m. And the subsequent regular council meeting is Monday, November 3rd at 1 p.m. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the township. Cheers.